Mikhail Sergeyevich Gorbachev, born on March 2, 1931, in Privolnoye, Russia, is widely recognized as one of the pivotal figures in modern global history, primarily for his role in transforming the Soviet Union and reshaping international relations during the late 20th century. His leadership marked a significant departure from the rigid orthodoxy of his predecessors, initiating reforms that ultimately led to the dissolution of the Soviet Union and the end of the Cold War. Early life and education. Gorbachev was born into a peasant family during a tumultuous period in Soviet history. His upbringing in the rural village of Privolnoye instilled in him a deep appreciation for the struggles of the working class and a strong sense of social justice. His early education was interrupted by World War II, during which he experienced firsthand the devastation wrought by the conflict in his homeland. After the war, Gorbachev pursued higher education at Moscow State University, where he studied law. It was during this time that he became actively involved in politics and joined the Communist Party of the Soviet Union, CPSU, marking the beginning of his ascent within the party ranks. Political career and rise to power. Gorbachev's political career accelerated in the 1960s and 1970s as he moved through various positions within the CPSU hierarchy. His early experiences in regional party leadership provided him with insights into the challenges facing the Soviet Union, including economic stagnation, bureaucratic inefficiency, and widespread public disillusionment. By the early 1980s, Gorbachev had distinguished himself as a reform-minded leader within the Soviet establishment. His promotion to the Politburo in 1980 and subsequent appointment as General Secretary of the CPSU in March 1985 marked a turning point in Soviet politics. At 54, Gorbachev became the youngest Soviet leader since Joseph Stalin, signaling a generational shift in leadership. Perestroika. Restructuring the Soviet system. Gorbachev's tenure as General Secretary was defined by his commitment to reforming and revitalizing the Soviet system. Central to his agenda was the policy of perestroika, or economic restructuring, aimed at modernizing the Soviet economy through decentralization, market reforms, and increased transparency. Perestroika sought to address the inefficiencies of central planning while preserving the socialist principles of the Soviet state. The economic reforms introduced under perestroika were accompanied by glasnost, or openness, a policy aimed at promoting transparency, freedom of expression, and political reform within Soviet society. Glasnost led to greater public debate and criticism of the Soviet system, challenging the long-standing culture of censorship and secrecy. Challenges and opposition. Despite his vision for reform, Gorbachev faced significant opposition from conservative elements within the CPSU and entrenched bureaucratic interests. Critics accused him of undermining socialist principles and jeopardizing the party's monopoly on power. The pace and scope of reform also strained the Soviet economy, exacerbating social tensions and exacerbating nationalist sentiments in the Soviet republics. Internationally, Gorbachev's policies had profound implications for global geopolitics. His willingness to engage in dialogue with Western leaders, including U.S. President Ronald Reagan, helped thaw Cold War tensions and laid the groundwork for arms control agreements such as the Intermediate Range Nuclear Forces Treaty, INF. Collapse of the Soviet Union. The reforms unleashed by Gorbachev ultimately set in motion forces that would lead to the unraveling of the Soviet Union. By the late 1980s, nationalist movements gained momentum in the Baltic states, Ukraine, and other Soviet republics, challenging Moscow's authority and demanding greater autonomy or independence. In August 1991, a coup attempt by hardline elements within the CPSU sought to oust Gorbachev and halt the reform process. The coup failed in the face of mass popular resistance, but it further weakened the central authority of the Soviet state. In the aftermath of the failed coup, Gorbachev's leadership was increasingly marginalized as the constituent republics asserted their sovereignty. On December 25, 1991, Gorbachev resigned as president of the Soviet Union, effectively dissolving the Union and bringing an end to over 7 decades of communist rule. The dissolution of the Soviet Union marked the culmination of Gorbachev's reforms and symbolized a new era in global politics, characterized by the emergence of independent states in Eastern Europe and the former Soviet republics. Post-presidential years and legacy. Following the collapse of the Soviet Union, Gorbachev remained active in Russian and international affairs. He founded the Gorbachev Foundation to promote social, political, and economic reforms in Russia and continued to advocate for nuclear disarmament and global cooperation on environmental issues. Gorbachev's legacy remains a subject of debate and interpretation. Supporters hail him as a visionary leader who courageously confronted the shortcomings of the Soviet system and initiated reforms that paved the way for a more open and democratic Russia. Critics argue that his policies inadvertently accelerated the collapse of the Soviet Union and unleashed economic and political turmoil. In recognition of his efforts to end the Cold War and promote international cooperation, Gorbachev was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize in 1990. Despite the complexities of his legacy, Mikhail Gorbachev's contributions to modern history continue to resonate, shaping our understanding of the challenges and opportunities of the post-Cold War era. His leadership exemplifies the power of bold ideas and the enduring quest for a more just and peaceful world. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe our channel.